got your back. All right, sure. So, I guess you want to find out what happened. But I went, so for people who don't know, I was gone for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because I was in Australia. I was doing the keynote speech for the Star Stuff 2 conference in Australia. With a whole bunch of good friends. Jeff Notkin, Meteorite Man, Amy Shira Teitel from Vintage Space, Alan Duffy, who is a sort of local celebrity in Australia, Space Gandalf, the Australians know, is Greg Quick. Yeah, so it was great. And I did 2 talks, actually. So the first night I was giving the talk about the new super telescopes coming, and I was the entertainment during their fancy formal dinner, which was fun. But then, because that was sort of a smaller group of people, I just did one of my patented QAs the next morning and just hung around and answered people's questions. But then also, because we were in Australia, and Australia is really hard to get to, we then took another 2 weeks, and my wife and I just we rented a motorhome and just traveled around Australia for 2 weeks. So we started in Brisbane, which is on the east coast, halfway up the east coast of Australia. Rented an RV, drove on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the vehicle. It was crazy, and just went north from there. And we ended up at a place called Mackay, or they all called it Mackay. And we saw all manner of wildlife, lots of kangaroos, platypuses in the rivers. We saw pink, white, and black cockatoos. And the craziest thing that we saw was this gigantic cloud of these rainbow lorikeets, which are these little, they're just beautiful little birds, but thousands and thousands of them were nesting just right above where we were camping. And so it was so loud that you felt like you were going to get some ear damage. It was unbelievable. I've got a video that I took of it, and it's madness. They were just flying around, just having so much fun. And you can really see like how social these birds are and how much they really enjoy each other's company. And it feels really weird. Like, I wouldn't want a bird as a pet because they're just so happy out there in the sky. But yeah, and then we came back, gave back the motorhome, and flew home. And it's a 14-hour flight. So that was awful.
But you're back now. You're back now.
We're back now. Yeah. Well, we got too much to do. Of course, tomorrow is going to be the lunar eclipse. That's going to be the longest one in a long time. It's a mini moon, as well as being a lunar eclipse. So the moon is going to be the smallest that we would see it from the sky, and so it's going to spend the longest possible time going through the Earth's shadow. Now, obviously, you, me, many of the people who are watching this right now won't be able to see it, but we've got a friend in Australia. In South Africa, Corey Schmitz, who is, this is an interview with Fraser, is it? Yeah. So Corey Schmitz is in South Africa. He is going to, we just did a practice now. He's going to turn on his telescope, and for 5 hours, he's just going to record the eclipse, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to be there. Paul Sutter's probably going to drop in. You're welcome to join us if you want. Come hang out for a bit.
Yeah.
Since you're gonna have to live, we're all gonna have to live vicariously through Corey to be able to watch it. But and then Dave Dickinson, who's of course the writer of our upcoming book, our observational book, he's gonna join, and so we're just gonna, how it's gonna go. We're just gonna answer questions about space astronomy, taking pictures. We'll just answer the same question over and over again, which is what telescope Corey is using. And the camera.
Yeah, so, and that's going to be tomorrow, right?
That's right. That's tomorrow. We start the actual eclipse gets going. The penumbra, which is the part where it starts to move into the shadow of the moon, starts around 1730 Universal Time, which corresponds to about 10:30 Pacific Time. So we're going to start the stream up at 10 a.m. and go until the end. So it's 10 a.m. Pacific Time. So just do the math.
Yes.
If you're in wherever you are, you're an hour ahead of me, 2 hours ahead of me.
I'm an hour.
You're an hour ahead. Yeah. So it's going to be 11 for you. It's going to be 12 for Pamela, it's going to be 1 for Dave, and then other times for the rest of the world. And obviously, if you're over there in the real, if you can see it, go watch it. But you really aren't going to be able to see it unless you're in, if you're going to be in Europe, you're going to be in Asia, you're going to be in Africa, parts of Australia, you'll be able to see it. But for those of us in North and South America, we can't see any of it. This is also Fozzie 21. Everyone could see it. The Earth is flat. AF, man. Well, here's the thing, right? The moon is going to go right through the Earth's shadow, and you will see that how it passes into the sphere of the Earth's shadow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a perfect test to demonstrate. Explain. I love the flat Earth explanation for lunar eclipses.
Oh man, and they try. I didn't click on any videos, but I'm sure they've got a workaround, just like they have a workaround, for gravity and yeah.
Now, the best part about being in Australia, I gotta say, was being able to see the core of the Milky Way directly overhead. So for you and me and everyone here who is further north, when we look to the core of the Milky Way in the constellation of Sagittarius, you see it right down on the horizon. I mean, you can still see it, but it's really low. And having something you want to see in the sky, but that's very low, is really hard, is bad, right? The atmospheric distortion and all that is really bad. But when you're in the southern hemisphere, when you're close to the equator, the core of the Milky Way just goes directly overhead. And it's the weirdest thing for me to look straight up and see the core of the Milky Way and to see Sagittarius and Scorpio and all these constellations. They really have it set. They've got the best place to view. Now that I've seen what those southern hemisphere skies are like, I totally get why they've been rubbing it in our faces for all these years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I saw the Southern Cross. I saw Alpha Centauri. I saw the Omega Cluster. I saw the large and small Magellanic Clouds. It was great, and I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I would go down there, because I'm not a huge fan of really scary creatures.
Well, that was the main reason for us to go, was to find really scary creatures. My wife is a nature photographer, so we were in the jungles looking for snakes and spiders and creepy crawly bugs.
Brave.
Yeah.
You're brave.
I just love her very much.
Very supportive. I'm just very
supportive.
Really
am. I turn off my astronomy brain and I turn on my find bugs brain, and that's my job while I'm hanging out with her when we go on these trips. But I mean, we've done Costa Rica and Florida and now Australia and a bunch of other places, and that's sort of my job, is to be the spotter while she's the one actually taking the pictures.
Yeah, someone says, "Pass, I'll be in New Zealand with the sheep."
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I can't wait to try out New Zealand as well. The same thing, same view. I mean, it's just to be able to see the core of the Milky Way, all the southern constellations. Yeah, and they get the auroras. I mean, that was the one thing I was able to, to sort of show off for all of those poor southern hemisphere folks, is I see the auroras here and they don't, but the New Zealanders do. So
New Zealanders get those. Yeah. But are there hobbits?
Only in New Zealand. I didn't see any in Australia. But, yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and it's great to have you back. So, I mean, I noticed that there was a few articles that came out, but I wanted to talk to you about the scale one, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, right? This new scale SETI has set up.
Oh, yes, it's a revision of an older scale. Yeah, I'm still sort of getting myself up to speed, but I do know the original scale and did a video about that a couple of years ago, and now they've revised it. So sure, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, because I think someone, obviously with Universe Today, they wrote about it, but I wanted you to talk about it because you might have a little bit. I don't have too much of a backstory on the previous scale that they have revised and made a little bit, hopefully more robust in that it can be better used.
So the scale is called the Rio scale, right? And I don't remember,
Here, I can find it.
As soon as I write something. But I think they were at a meeting in Rio and they wanted to define, like the Torino scale, I don't know if you're familiar with the Torino scale. The Torino scale is
Yes.
this way for measuring the danger of a potential asteroid impact in the future. So you've got a 10 is a 100% chance of a catastrophic impact that's an extinction event of the entire planet, right? That is a level 10 on the Torino scale. While a level 1 is there's a slight chance of a minor asteroid maybe hitting the Earth in the far, far future, but most people won't be hurt. And then there's the scale is in between. And it's really just a measure of how much should you panic, right?
Right.
And so they've got a similar version of that for the detections of extraterrestrial intelligence, where 0 is it's not a thing, and 10 is aliens are blowing up monuments on Earth right now with their gigantic galactic, space lasers.
Right.
And then every possible thing will then fit into that from there, from the wow signal to, and then of course there's science fiction. And it's a way to just sort of say, put things into a sense of perspective about how crazy the each of these detections are going to be. And Seth, I'm sure Seth, so you've got from none to extraordinary,
Right.
and and so you've got a new version of the Rio scale 2.0. So
2.0.
let's I haven't actually done this. I should just do a video on this, but
Yeah, because this would be a good one. But it's basically saying, like, I have it up on the screen, but it's saying this is how you want to deal with communicating this also to media, which is
yes,
pretty important, I would say.
Yeah, you want to tell. It's a way again to tell the media quickly to whether or not to panic, right?
Yeah,
and how
right.
much to panic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking at the list now.
Yeah.
How far is the signal? Can we communicate back with them? Are we aware of their technology or our technology? Let's see. This is good. This is interesting. I should totally do I got too many things to do videos on now.
So what happens when you're gone?
Yeah. How real and to study is the phenomenon? How certain are we? Are you looking at the actual study part? No, you should click through to the actual study.
The actual study.
Is it natural or not anthropogenic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the actual study right here.
And then you get a list from nil to nil, insignificant, low, minor, moderate, intermediate, noteworthy, high, far-reaching, outstanding, and extraordinary. But let me find, they often, let's see if they've done this with science fiction. They haven't done this yet. Too bad. In the previous version of the Rio scale, Seth Shostak, who works at the SETI Institute, calculated various science fiction events onto the Rio, mapped them across to the Rio scale, and was able to get, let's then help provide people with a bit of a definition of what you would expect to see. So it was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't have time to look at the study. I think this kind of came up maybe about a day or two ago. So
yeah.
And then water on Mars, subsurface ocean, and then that got thrown in there.
Hey, Leland, the veteran, I'm here every week.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes 1 o'clock, or is it 2 o'clock? I don't know.
No, I think it's.
I think
it's 1. I think my brain has been. I'm recovering. Like the whole time you were gone, I've been sick.
Oh
no. Yeah, I still have the cough. But yeah, it's been kind of a storm. But I must have read the 2 at the end of the calendar time.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely on me, not Joe.
Not
for the
Joe.
record.
No,
it's my fault.
It doesn't matter if it was Joe's mistake. It's still your mistake because you're in charge.
Yes, I am the one that runs this. So
exactly.
Let's see here. So yeah, so this R equals. So they have these little squiggly lines, but they represent what this means. So the scale is constructed by multiplying 2 numbers Q, which describes the consequences of a signal if it is an ETI discovery, and then you've got a description of the credibility of the signal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually pretty cool and
yeah.
obviously needed because in the days of technology and mass media, it's good to have these kind of things in place. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a few other things that so So Mars.
Oh, the liquid water on Mars?
You know when these things drop that everybody is like, is it true?
Is it true? It is true. Kind of.
Kind of.
Probably. Yeah, so the European space agencies, and I'm going to apologize in advance. I am still, like, I've only just got back to Canada a couple of days ago. I have a way that I get the news into my brain, and it sort of is this cycle that I go through as I sort of produce stuff for my newsletter and record stuff out for my various podcasts and answer questions, and it sort of gets into my head. So none of this stuff is deeply in my head. I have a much more shallow understanding of everything. This week, next week, I'll be able to go deep on anything anybody wants to talk about ever. But yeah, so the European Space Agency's Mars Express took these. These ultrasound pictures. They really look like a little baby inside Mars. Pictures of an underground, what seems to be an underground lake under the pole of Mars, which is a pretty crazy idea. Right. So not a vast amount of water, but some amount of water, and in a liquid form, which is exactly what you could hope for. It's protected from the radiation environment at the surface, liquid water. Wherever we find water on Earth, we find life. So if it just means that it could be possible that there's life on Mars.
Yeah, and so they're going to be probably looking at other regions with this orbiter and looking for these small pockets, or AKA lakes, ponds.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that water has been thought to be on Mars.
Right.
And the one that was previously seen was these looked like these were like streams coming out the sides of craters and then rolling downhill. And now it looks like that can be completely explained by landslides and isn't water at all. So I think at every point, planetary astronomers reserve the right to say, oops, sorry, we were wrong, and take it back.
Yeah, and but I mean, this is, again, like you said, one of the most important things you said at the beginning, and I was conveying this to the chat earlier, is that this is not kind of a new idea that there's, we see water ice, and we've seen that at the poles. So this liquid water, I mean, we've thought for years it would likely be subsurface if it did exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is like more confirmation required, and potentially a new spacecraft will need to be developed that'll actually be able to go and confirm for sure that this is what they think it is.
Yeah, for realsies. And so, so someone says, what type of radiation is on Mars?
Well, there's two kinds of radiation that are on Mars. The first one, when you travel to space, there are three kinds of radiation that you have to be concerned with. The first one is called trapped radiation, and this is also known as the Van Allen belts, or the magnetosphere around a planet. And this is the thing that protects us here on Earth. The particles from the sun are streaming into the Earth. The Earth's magnetic field grabs these radioactive particles and whips them around, blows them out to space, siphons them into the auroras, puts it to work. And for the folks at the International Space Station, they're below this radioactive environment. But you pass through the trapped radiation, and you're gonna get a face full of radiation. Mm-hmm. And this is, of course, what the moon hoaxers claim is the reason why we haven't been to the moon. But of course, how can we know about the radiative environment if we haven't gone through that region? Anyway, and it's actually, I mean, it's bad. You don't want to stay there, but it's not that bad. The Apollo astronauts received about 1% of the radiation load that they were expecting to receive when they went and did their trip to the moon. So that's the first one. The second one is the nonstop solar wind that's coming off of the sun, and there are these particles that are emitting radiation. And during a really powerful solar storm, you can get a much higher density of these particles, and an astronaut can receive a lethal dose in hours being out in space unprotected. And being on the surface of Mars is essentially the equivalent to being unprotected. The third kind is what's called galactic cosmic radiation. And these are high energy particles that are coming from out there in space, other galaxies, black holes, supernovae, really powerful stars, neutron stars. And it's this constant, very dangerous level of radiation that is really hard to protect against. The particles have enormously high energy and are quite damaging to our fragile DNA. And again, the surface of Mars has no protection, so you just take any time you spend out on the surface of Mars, you will just be enjoying your radiation load.
Right. I would say a nice tan, but it's
a nice tan in your DNA.
In your DNA, yeah,
that's you don't want that.
Yeah, doesn't sound as great. So someone said, or asks, I should stop saying said because these are questions. Are there any bodies of heavy water on Mars, Leland?
Like, are you talking about like heavy water like they find here on Earth? No. So this is kind of interesting. So if you protected yourself, right? So heavy water is a version of regular water, except what is it? The hydrogen atoms. It's like H2, an extra. I forget. It's a modification of the isotope for the hydrogen part for the water.
Mm-hmm.
And because it has more protons, it's more dense and absorbs radiation better. And one of the things that's really interesting is that if you surround, for example, something with water, it's going to turn into heavy water over time as you bombard it with radiation, which is kind of interesting. So tritium has 2 neutrons. There you go.
Yeah.
And so you will turn, I believe it's like protons into neutrons in the water, creating more heavy water over time.
Mm-hmm.
But heavy water is incredibly rare and hard to find and it's one of the most expensive things you can make here on Earth. You have to find it, concentrate it, collect it. It's not easy stuff to get your hands on unless you run a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, and so that's just heavy water, but even just water in our own solar system. I mean, this whole subsurface idea. I mean, they've talked about it with even Ceres.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw, there was a recent study that just came out a couple of days ago as well, which is that they've done some mapping of the surface of Europa and to try and figure out what would be the best places to land. And what they really think now is even just under a couple of centimeters of ice on Europa, and life will be completely protected by this radiation environment. And for Europa, the danger is that trapped radiation. It's all of the particles that are being pushed around by Jupiter, and it's
right.
Like deadly. Like you stand on the surface of Europa and it'll kill you in a day.
Yeah.
But get a couple of centimeters under the water ice and you're laughing. So it's a very cool place to go.
Yeah, that and Enceladus, right? Those are pretty similar.
Well, Enceladus is less of a problem because it's
further away.
Saturn, right? So Saturn has less of a trapped radiation environment than Jupiter does.
Yeah,
Jupiter's
a beast.
Yeah.
Jupiter is a beast.
And so Enceladus would be better and worse for various reasons. I mean, I'm so glad that people are heading to Europa now with the Europa Clipper.
Yeah, and there was a tweet that I retweeted because I've been talking a lot about it too, is going back to, our ice giants.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's something that's super important, and having, you can talk about that with the dual mission concept and Alan Stern's idea. Yeah,
this was a study that came from, it was from Amy Simon, Alan Stern, who, of course, Amy Simon is like the head planetary person at NASA. Alan Stern is from New Horizons, obviously, and Mark Hostetter is another planetary scientist at NASA. And they are just proposing that it's time to go back to Uranus, Neptune, Kuiper Belt objects, Pluto, like to properly explore the outer solar system. And it definitely is time.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be amazing. I mean, it's like there's nothing at Saturn right now. There's nothing at Venus right now.
Right. Right.
It's time to go back to all the places all the time.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah, and as much as I agree with you. Like as cool as space is, and exploring things far out and seeing things far, far billions of light years away, it's still just as important to understand things in our own cosmic neighborhood, in our own solar system,
Yeah.
because we don't understand a lot of it still. Venus is still. We talked about Venus
Yeah.
the other day. It's very, very weird. We don't understand a lot of it. And the ice giants are just a complete mystery. I mean, Voyager.
Yeah, all we've seen was what was taken from Voyager,
Yeah.
Voyager 2, and that's it. One's flyby, a set of pictures, a tantalizing hint. Like, it seems like there are geysers coming off of Triton,
Yeah.
a moon of
Nitrogen.
Neptune.
Yeah.
What's going on there, please?
Yeah.
Sucks.
And doesn't
So,
Triton orbit backward?
yeah.
Triton
it's
goes
in
around.
retrograde from the rest of the moons. So
Yeah.
that's weird.
And there's just so much of these things that we saw it and with the Voyager probes, and well, not probes, actually just one, but
Voyager
and
probe
singular, and that's all we saw. That's all she wrote, and I think it's time to go back. So I was glad to see that, because we've been talking about that. It's even Uranus with its tilted rotation. It's completely on its side. Just so weird. We don't understand our oceans either.
No.
Right.
No, but I said in a recent video, like, what we don't know about the universe could fill a universe. So it's time to, as always, it's time to get back out there and visit more stuff. Titan, right? Let's get a helicopter down on the surface of Titan. Let's land on comets and bring a sample back to Earth. That's never happened. Let's go to Venus, ply the skies of Venus. Use new technologies to send a rover down to Venus. There's all new heat-resistant technologies that can get down to Venus. Let's do that. So the list of things on the planetary science to-do list is a mile long. Not to mention the space, the telescope to-do list. So
right. And someone said or asked, if we moved asteroids to crash into Mars, could we make it more like Earth?
Not really. Okay. I mean, part of the problem with Mars is that it doesn't have mass. It has, I forget what it is, a quarter the mass of Earth, a sixth the mass of the Earth, I forget, but not a lot of mass, and a third the gravity of Earth.
Right.
And so the problem is that if you want to make it a more habitable place, you want to increase its gravity. But here's the bad news. If you took all of the asteroids in the entire asteroid belt, right, Ceres and Vesta and Pallas and all of them, and you merge them all together, you would have an object that has 5% of the Earth's moon. 5%. So the asteroids are not a planet. They are just, you could mash them all together and have something that wouldn't be anywhere near the size of the moon. So that is not the way to do it. And of course, drop an asteroid somewhere and you ruin its environment for hundreds, potentially thousands of years. So you don't want to do that. You want to be more gentle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do this that's been thought through right now is you put some kind of shield out at the Mars Sun L1 Lagrange point, which is this balance point in between the sun and Mars. And then that would block this radiation that's streaming from the sun, and the natural volcanic processes that are happening on Mars would release and slowly heat up the temperature of Mars, and you would get to a point where the ice caps would actually, the carbon dioxide caps would melt,
Mm-hmm.
or sublimate, and that would thicken the atmosphere. And you could even get to a point where at certain times, the actual liquid water could potentially melt. So just by blocking the radiation, that the solar wind from the sun, you could probably then naturally thicken the atmosphere to a point that Mars would be a lot more livable. But the reality is that Mars sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Mars
Mm-hmm.
sucks, and it's always going to suck, and it's never going to be great, and it's always going to be, at its best possible situation, is it's going to have a fraction of the gravity of Earth, and it's going to be cold, and it's going to be hard to breathe. And you're going to want to just live underground. And you know where else you could live underground if you really wanted to? Here on Earth. Plenty of places you could live underground. And if you don't want to live underground, you could also live up on top and enjoy forests and oceans and birds and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that for a lot of people who I mean, I totally get this romantical notion about like, let's go and colonize
Terraform.
Mars, just terraform Mars and make it a terrible twin of Earth.
Right.
I wonder what that line of thinking is. Like on the one hand, obviously human beings, we love to explore, we love to conquer new lands. And at the same time, Mars is going to be a land that is so awful compared to whatever we have on Earth. So my feeling, ASASDA, whatever, is saying that I'm a pessimist, and I'm totally not because, oh no, Mr. Samuel's saying I'm a pessimist.
Yeah.
And I'm not a pessimist.
No.
My feeling is that space itself is the place that we go. That out in space, when you can build rotating habitats, then you can control the gravity, then you can control the air, then you can control the temperature, and you've got a place that you can build a livable environment from the ground up, and you're out in space.
Right. You're in the vacuum, so.
Yeah, and Fields 2K saying, let's send all the trash and chemicals there. I think that's exactly right. Let's get and this is Jeff Bezos's plan, as opposed to Elon Musk's. Let's get all the heavy industry off Earth and out into space where it won't be able to harm us, right? Like, let's get all of the factories and all of the power production and all that kind of stuff out into space, and let's let Earth
breathe
and do the one thing that Earth does better than anywhere else in the entire universe, which is to be a great place for life.
Yeah.
Right. Earth is the best place in the universe. I defy the aliens on the Rio scale to come and tell me that their planet is better than ours. Ours is the best.
Yeah, we have a great planet, and that's one thing. Like I started watching The Expanse recently because everybody in my channel went crazy finding out that I haven't watched it.
How could you?
I know. Well, but I love the way that they actually, and I'm not giving spoilers, guys, but the way they portray Earth and, Martian dwelling humans, and how, I mean, it's pretty realistic in terms of, they say they've been living there for hundreds of years or something. Don't quote me on that, but, and that they're still, living, they have not terraformed or anything. A lot of people
they're working on it.
Right. They're working on it, but
but even that has a fundamental assumption that human beings can even live in 1/3 gravity for any period of time.
Right.
It might be that if you try to procreate on Mars and gestate a human being, you're going to create an unviable offspring.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal for having a future Mars colony. So what do you have to do? Everybody has to leave Mars. You put pregnant women on centrifuges to keep them alive, right? To make sure the babies are viable before what happens is your bones grow on Mars. So there are a ton of technical challenges that need to be solved before we even get to the point that these places are habitable. And that's the same thing with the moon. I mean, I think the moon and Mars, for me, would be wonderful places to go and visit. Just jump around in the low gravity, be like being on a trampoline all the time. Look at me, right? Right. But then after a while, you'd be like, okay, so what have I got? And on the plus side, I can jump around like I'm in low gravity. And it's really fun. And I've got a really nice view of the night sky. But on the downside, you can't breathe. My bones are getting weak. My fluids are moving around in my body. My eyesight is fading. I'm not allowed to have children because they will be not viable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can't go in swimming. Can't go to the beach. Like all these things, right? So that is my problem. Phoenix 65 40 20 Coatu. I think he's talking about Michio Kaku. Saying that Mars is fine to just it. Great. Then he should go and do that.
Yeah,
let us know how the test works out. But
I'll let you know.
Yeah, no one has even done a gestating offspring in 30% gravity experiment. Even and there was an idea to do that about 10, 15 years ago, the Russians were actually planning to send a tiny little rotating space station to the International Space Station, and they would have some mice on it, and they would live out multiple generations and to see what would happen in Mars gravity. But they never sent the spacecraft.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be a big thing. Like this would, and this is one of the reasons, you know, because again, guys, like you need that bone density, and in low gravity, your muscles aren't having to resist. So that resistance doesn't allow for your bones to keep that density. So you lose bone, you also atrophy. And those things are kind of important to human development, you know, skeleton, you know, just that structure that we need on the, presented rats to Mars.
Yeah. There's a plague here already. Yeah, but can you imagine like rats with like adorable little spacesuits?
Oh my goodness.
That'd be so cute. Their little spacesuits, and they'd be noodling around on the surface of Mars.
Space rat cam. We would need that.
Rat cam, yeah.
So someone asked, isn't there a TV show to go to Mars with a bunch of people happening soon?
Yeah, that was Mars One. And their plan was to kind of crowdsource a Mars colony, and they were going to sell the rights to live event, you know, to every part of it, to broadcast television, and for less than the cost of the Olympics, they could send a human mission, a one-way mission to Mars, where people could turn on their television every day and watch people trying to eke out an existence on Mars. And
this is something I've been proposing for at least a year. It's like real world Mars.
Yeah. I hate to break this to you, but somebody already had your idea.
No.
And it's very well publicized. And look up Mars One.
Oh goodness. I'll wait. I'm going to look it up right now. I had no idea.
It's possible that they've taken hundreds of thousands of applications, have already gone through and chosen their 500 Martians, including Cody from Cody's lab.
This isn't one of those like things where they're like, buy your ticket to Mars. And there's really
No. They're now nobody thinks it's ever going to actually happen. I actually interviewed the founder of Mars One, and it's a long shot. I think they really believe that they sincerely want to do this, but the challenges are enormous in them actually being able to do it. So
current mission status. Yeah, this is crazy. I think there's been so many hoaxes too with going to Mars that I can't really separate the two. MTV Mars TV. Bring it back. At least make it relevant again, right?
Yeah. Viacom should get on board.
Mm-hmm. I think this would be pretty interesting, although, you know, and one of the things I've talked about with Mars that I wonder what they would do is, and I know it's only an 8-month trip one way, roughly, is the screening, like the mental wellness screening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fraser Cain just had the same thing. Of all of the things that I'm concerned about, the people getting space madness is like the least of my concerns. Yeah, because we've demonstrated that human beings who are really emotionally stable can handle those kinds of extreme conditions for very long periods of time. People on submarines, people at remote research stations down in Antarctica. There's been plenty of examples where a small group of people have to work together and can do it just fine. But we don't have examples of people who try to live in 1/3 gravity or experience a year's worth of radiation every day. Right? We don't have those examples. So of all of the things that I feel we can work through, avoiding space madness is the least of them. But, you know, again, this is my opinion.
No, and I've just always been curious about, you know, like, again, we've seen people that are trained to deal with these situations. We haven't thrown out just your average, you know, Joe out there. And no jokes, Joe. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to send you to Mars, but I mean, we haven't really dealt with this.
I mean, it's a trope in sci-fi, right?
Right.
And that's and yet I think that there are. Have you ever met an astronaut?
No.
They're the best. Right? You can see why they were selected as astronauts. They are smart and they're well educated and they're fearless test pilots, if that's what they've done. and they are wonderful human beings who were chosen because they're so good to work with other people. And that is their greatest trait, is that they are really good at working with other people. So yeah, I would be very unconcerned with any of the astronauts getting space madness.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you send the colonists to Mars, and
That's more of what I mean.
then you would be concerned. And yeah, you get a person that's like, I changed my mind. I don't want to be here anymore. I
Right.
gotta go. I want to come home now. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're now on Mars, and this is where you'll die.
Yeah, you got
I can
developing
imagine somebody perhaps falling to pieces when that happens.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is, like, not so much as the astronauts. Astronauts, I feel like they've got that down. There's a whole process to that. But like these like sending Joe, for instance. Now, I'm not saying Joe's an agoraphobe, but what if Joe suddenly becomes an agoraphobe? He doesn't want to be outside and mentally unstable, and you're on a ship with a bunch of other people.
But these are the kinds of things that are being tested out right now. I mean, there are the various Mars analog projects that are happening. There's one, the HiRISE, which is on Mauna Kea. You should sign up for that as an American, where you go into a Mars simulation for a month, 45 days, and they've even done a year, and pretend to live on Mars with the communication delays and all of the steps that they have to do and the closed environment inside, just to find every way that it breaks.
Whoa.
And yeah, it's super interesting.
And what's the name of that one again?
That's called High Seas. High Seas.
Okay.
HISEAS, but it's a Mars analog. It's a NASA Mars analog. And then the Mars Society does one in the desert of Utah, which would be fun. So there's a lot of people, and the Russians have done this, and they've done a bunch of examples with like bed rest studies and things like that. So there's plenty of people who are testing out, essentially, can human beings work in a closed environment with long delays from Earth and troubleshoot problems and so on and so forth. And yeah.
Someone said, then you undock Joe when he goes to sleep if he turns into an agoraphobe.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
You just kick him out the airlock, and you can't let that kind of toxic agoraphobia, threaten the crew.
Yeah. And this is all really
monster.
Cool. Just, at least it would, I don't know. That's something that I've always thought about. And that's when I started saying things with the real world Mars, that it would be interesting just to see the development. I'm kind of surprised that this hasn't been, other than obviously Mars One is a thing, but I didn't know that.
I love the little Space Force emoticon that you've got.
Yeah, it's a meme. We've got to make fun of it.
Is that one that just came in? Man, that was quite a experience. I had done a Space Force video about a month and a half ago. I don't know if you've played it, but then Trump doubled down on the Space Force, and it just was like a hornet's nest for a couple of weeks there. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, and that's why we've embraced it as. What are your thoughts on it?
It's premature.
Yeah,
is my thought. People don't realize that space is already militarized to the absolute maximum that they can get away with.
Right.
That makes sense. So there is reconnaissance satellites, there are communication satellites, there are every manner of satellites used for military purposes. The U.S. Air Force has a space plane, the X-37B. Who knows what it does? It's the only reusable space plane going into space right now. It's Air Force, and at the same time, the Chinese are doing their version of it. The Russians are doing their version of it. Space is well militarized, but it is not more militarized because it doesn't make sense to send humans up to space. You're not going to launch a Yamato space battleship and fill it with Space Corps and send them off to conquer the solar system. It just doesn't make sense. So it's premature. Those capabilities already exist in the Air Force and the Navy, and there's a space part already. And at the same time, you can imagine a future time when there are colonists on Mars, and there are mining operations, and there are bases on the moon, and something like the Coast Guard makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
a space coast guard, and then eventually there will be a space force, and it's inevitable.
Right.
We as human beings, wherever we go, we take our military with us. But for now, it feels a little premature, and I can't imagine for the life of me what space force would be, except just an organizational chart rearrangement of the current responsibilities that everybody has.
Right, right. Someone said here, or they actually proposed this. Lieutenant Ascot said, "Why don't we just build a base on the moon, mine helium-3 and deuterium, then build a fusion reactor to power a huge railgun to make supply shipments to Mars cheap."
So let me see. So let's just kind of run through those. Let's start with the things that we don't know how to do yet, which is the fusion reactor. No one has been able to successfully create a sustainable fusion reaction beyond fractions of a second that generate more power than goes into them. So there's challenge number one, which is we need to crack fusion. Then we need to put fusion on the moon, which is we can hope that once fusion reactors are functioning here on Earth, then they will work on the moon as well. Maybe they'll work better because you won't have gravity. You can hold that fusion reaction in your, your magnetic toroid. Then, railguns. Railguns work here on Earth. That's a pretty well-known technology. You probably could use railguns to fire material off of the surface of the moon and send it onto a transfer orbit to Mars. Although when it did get to Mars, it would slam into the atmosphere of Mars. So you would be either burning it up in the Martian atmosphere, or you would be sort of raining artificial asteroids down on the surface of Mars. It all sounds great. Let's do it.
Yep. Just take U.S. Space Command at Schriever and call it Space Force. Done.
Yeah, so there's the 45th wing of the Air Force, and that is their space wing, the Air Force Space Wing. And they are the ones who are responsible for essentially all of the military work done by the U.S. military in space. And it is a lot, and they have a big budget. And they have, they recently gave 2 telescopes to NASA, which are the same class as Hubble. They are 2.6-ish meter telescopes. We could have 3 Hubble Space Telescopes right now. They just gave them because they're not good enough anymore. They didn't know what to do with them. So just let that, and these telescopes look down. They don't look out into space. They look down.
Right.
And so 2 Hubbles, not good enough, looking down at Earth. Space is well militarized at this point.
Yeah. It's good, guys.
Yeah.
Someone just
they're good. They've got that whole militarization of space well under control, and are so the question is, do you give people new titles? Like, here you go. Now, instead of you being Air Force Space Command, you are Space Command.
Space Moon Man Commander.
Yeah, Commander of Space Command. And I'm not going to lie, Space Force is an awesome name.
It is.
Yeah. I would love, it should have been Starfleet, obviously. Right?
Obviously.
But Space Force is a really cool name. And that's just awesome. But it doesn't mean anything. So
yeah. And so that Joe made that emote, and it was great.
I love it. It was awesome.
Dr. Pamela doesn't like it so much. But
really? Oh, Space Wars, because she likes the idea of Starfleet.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff too, because it's just like you said, it's premature.
What would it be if it was Star Wars? Then it would be the Imperium.
That sounds really dark.
The Empire? No, that'd be dark, right?
Yeah, it'd be too dark.
Yeah.
You kind of want to make it sound.
Stormtroopers? Would you call them? No, because that's like from World War II. No, that's a terrible name. So no, it's got to be Starfleet. And Starfleet is like this this positive, sure, they have weapons on board their starship that can vaporize a city, but they're there for peace.
Yeah. And they had Star Troopers, but I don't think anybody would take that seriously.
Yeah. Stargate Command. But that would mean we would need Stargates, which is what I really want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of all of the forms of magical science fiction transportation, I choose Stargates. If I can choose one of them, I want the one where I just, get put on a backpack and walk through a gurgling membrane and arrive on another planet.
I like this guy, Renaj says.
Stargate for the win.
Yeah. I like Skynet. I like Skynet, but
Is
Skynet
that
also is kind of scary, but
yeah?
you know, but I have my own purposes for that just because Star Force,
Star Force, Star Blazers.
I kind of like it. I think we got to work on this
Well, the
one.
name, well, see, the one that I thought of like 10 years ago was the Thrilling Space Agency.
The Thrilling?
Yeah, thrilling, right? Because then and they're like, and they could just be doing all kinds of like every new release from NASA is just like, hey, here's what we're doing on the Thrilling Space Agency. We're hurtling through the cosmos, and just like really make it sound exciting.
I feel like you
Uh,
would need a lot of jazz hands, you know, to
yeah,
describe
exactly. Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
This new
There'd be a lot of like
news.
quick cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick cuts.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're Buzz Aldrin. Right.
That's
Yeah.
great. So let's see. Do you guys have any other questions? He's got about 7 minutes left.
But we took a little longer. I'll give you an extra 5 minutes. Let's go
Mm.
for an extra. Let's go for 11-ish minutes.
Okay, we can do that.
But I do have to go back because Corey is right now chilling out in the South African wintertime with a view of the moon. We're going to be doing a test for tomorrow's live stream.
Oh,
So,
awesome. Yeah, make sure you let me know. Oh, someone said Cane Force.
Cape Force. But like I said, you're invited. I'll send you the link to our Zoom, and then if you want to drop in and look at the moon with us,
Yeah.
by all means.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, would you guys like to see that? Because we don't get it here in North America. We are not on the winning side of this, but you know, it's only fair because the solar eclipse, right?
Yeah, we've had our shares of lunar eclipses, and we did have the wonderful solar eclipse.
We had the
and there's
amazing
going to be
one.
another one in 2024.
Mhm.
Leland the Veteran is like, where can you find out about me? You should, Astronomy Cast, obviously, and then my YouTube channel.
Yeah, see, he has a whole command here because again,
There you
he's
go.
on here every week. You know, assuming like he's not out of the country or anything like that.
Yeah, not for another 6 weeks, but then we're going to be doing episode 500 of Astronomy Cast at Pamela's hometown of Edwardsville in September.
Yeah, she's been talking about that, which is really, really cool. 500
Yeah.
episodes.
What I love about this the most is that the fans organized it. That the folks at the WSH crew have pulled everything together and organized the whole thing, and it's such a load off to not be the one organizing a thing for me or Pamela, and they're just the best community that we could possibly hope for.
Yeah, why doesn't my community do things like that? Why don't they organize things for me?
Because you don't ask them. You know, I just like someone says you should invite so and so onto your show, and I'm like, tell you what, join the community. We make you an executive producer immediately, and you can then invite whoever you want on the show, and I will be glad to invite them and do an interview with them. Like at a certain point, people have to understand that we're only human beings, and we only have so much time in the day, and we don't have a gigantic production crew like, I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson to work in things like Cosmos, and so we need the fans to work with us in this really close-knit kind of way, and I'm sure Joe is shocked and amazed that he has gained so much responsibility here, but I'm sure that Joe is responsible and wants to help, and you need the help.
I
and
do.
There you go. So I think if you enjoy this show and you want to make it a better show, help Sky out. And
help
I'm
me
sure,
out, guys.
Help her out, and I'm sure she would love. I say, and if she shuns you, then come help me out, because I will gladly take your assistance. And I think that there is this really great partnership now between the people who watch this stuff and the people who make this stuff. And I think in the olden days, you would expect you're going to watch the Kardashians, but you're never going to be able to hang out with them and pitch in. And I think we live in this age now where it is a much closer bond between the people who are creating the entertainment and the people who are consuming it, and make this transfer to sort of work together to create the entertainment that people want. I can't offer It's like if I can't offer to pay some people, but if
Right.
they want to have a guest come and I'll interview their favorite guest for them, that's the deal I can strike with you.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
right?
And that's one of those things where and Joe, you've been so helpful.
Right.
You have,
All
Joe.
hail Joe.
Mm-hmm.
When do you get to have Joe on the show?
Joe is never leaving his house. I might have not been kidding about him being in a agoraphobic. No, he's probably fine, but he's in the UK.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
From the future.
He's from the
Joe,
future.
Do we have flying cars in the future?
Joe always just reports back that it's cloudy skies.
It really is. Yeah. Same as here. And that's why I have to depend on somebody in South Africa to browse to live stream the night sky for me.
Yeah. So Fraser could get Bill Nye, Michi. Those guys are actually extremely difficult to.
Yeah, and I mean they're great. Like by all means, like who doesn't love Bill Nye? Who doesn't love Michio Kaku? Brian Greene? They're great, but they're busy. And why? They're busy and they get plenty of media attention. Let's bring it down one more level.
Right.
Let's look at Emily Lakdawalla from the Planetary
Right.
Society, or Jason R. Davis from the Planetary Society, or there's a whole bunch of amazing people. People working on their light sail project. People are working on advocacy. Casey Dreyer, who goes up to. This is just on the Planetary Society.
Right.
That's 3-4 names. There's
Yeah.
Matt Kaplan, who does their podcast. Why go for Bill Nye? Like, there's so many other people. Like, by all means, invite Bill Nye, but he's going to be busy because you get this sort of pyramid of popularity. But there's so many other hardworking people at the Planetary Society.
Mm-hmm.
Michio Kaku is an astrophysicist and string theorist. There's a bunch of others out there, thousands that you can interview who are as interesting as Michio Kaku. And same thing with Brian Greene. Like, by all means, I'd love to chat with Brian Greene, but I would also love to chat with Ethan Siegel or Dr. Paul Sutter or Pamela Gay or any number of folks from various agencies. So I think that mainstream media has just focused like a laser beam on these individuals, and they're their go-to people because they just they're lazy, right?
Right.
They've got one phone number, like, the moon is going to turn red. Let's call Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Right.
I'm sure he gets 1,000 calls, but there's a million people who would be great to eloquently talk about the lunar eclipse and make you feel, a sense of, wonder for the universe.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
and
find
Dr. Emily Levesque, she's one that's absolutely great. She talks about stellar astronomy, and she's super passionate about it. So I agree because I mean,
Has she been on your show?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's great, and people love her. Because she's just so enthusiastic. I feel like it is kind of time to usher in, the next wave of scientists and science communicators to complement the scientists, because sometimes scientists aren't great at communicating the science that they do.
Yeah, exactly. And so you and I, we have this role to make those interviews happen, right? Like, your job is to draw out the insights and really interesting information from these people. And I think it's great that you are absolutely dominating here on Twitch. And I think if anyone says to you, you should invite so-and-so on, you should just turn that back around and go, join my army. I'll make you an executive producer. You invite them on.
And then I do a background check first, and I make sure that they don't have any.
If you want, I guess, I mean, you give them a form letter for how to invite someone and make them an executive producer. What's the worst that can happen?
Oh. Let's see, because there was another person. I forgot who we were watching the other day, and I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't even know where I wrote it down because I have paper everywhere. But there was somebody that we were watching a talk on who was and he would have been great to have on. He was talking about exoplanets, and he was answering questions for kids, and these kids were coming in with good questions, great questions. So. That is something that we're going to definitely get back into too. I do want to explore, because I know people really want, these
Yeah.
telescope streams, and I know you and I have been talking about that. So
yeah, well, and I promise, my telescope is back online. One of these nights, I will bring the telescope, and we will just do some live astronomy observing, and it's a really great telescope.
Yeah.
It's based out of California. It's provided by Oceanside Photo and Telescope, and it's an amazing machine, and we can just go and find whatever's up on the night sky.
Yeah.
What's my Twitch channel? Oh, wah, wah.
He doesn't have one, but again, like the
No.
command, he's all over. He's all over YouTube. He's
Yeah.
also got Astronomy Cast, which is also on YouTube, but they also have their own website. But he has so much stuff.
Yeah, I don't have the energy for this Twitch thing. I can't believe that you are able to pull this off all the time, and kudos to you.
Yeah, no, it's it's intense. So it's in that regard, being a full-time streamer doing this is going to be naturally different than saying playing video games. I mean, I would love to be. I could sit here for 8 hours and play video games, no problem.
Well, that's the thing, because you just generate the content. It's so easy, right?
Right.
But if you are trying to create other content, it's super rough, and that's why I think that you need to rely on your community more to act as your producers to help you organize a show.
I need someone to help me with sponsors, because I get a lot of people in here asking for telescopes and stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know why I don't have a Celestron sponsor.
Yeah, you should talk to Celestron.
Yeah,
I can probably pass your name along to them.
Yeah, these are things that are kind of on my side item list, and I'm trying to knock them down.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of. I mean, there are definitely sponsors, but then that's another thing to do. So it's hard to. I don't understand. My brain does not comprehend how people can do Twitch for long periods of time and have a life and organize anything else. And I don't grok it.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Why?
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't really have a life. I got to admit, like, I really don't have a life. So. And it's, so that's it. But
and that's why I'm glad to show up and give you an hour where you don't need to think.
Yes.
You can just relax, be the conduit for the chat, and we can hang out, and then you can go back to keeping it going.
Oh, someone actually, Kronos just said there should be an automated Twitch stream of a telescope where subs can use the commands to move it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
That sounds great.
They have a lot of stuff now where viewers can actually do stuff. A lot of these extensions.
Yeah. Well, man. Okay, I'm stealing that idea, Kronos.
Yeah.
Sorry, done. I just took it.
Trademarked.
TM. No, I could totally do that.
Yeah, that would actually be really, really cool.
And Lenico has already got it in the works, so we need to partner now. Okay.
I'm ready.
Join our virtual star party, Lenico.
Perfect.
Drop me an email after this, and I will put you to work.
Yeah.
And you can put me to work, and this is how this will work.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
That'd be great. Yeah.
I love it.
Well,
but I think you're exactly right. I think what Kronos just noted was, like, let's let the audience pick what's happening tonight, because it's a great tool that you can use to find all of the potential targets for the night.
Right.
And then you can sort of vote and go, hey, let's do. Up tonight we got the Lagoon Nebula and the Eagle Nebula, and so just vote, and then you go for the first one, and then you go to the next one, and I think it'd be fun. I love it.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah,
I love that idea.
That's actually a really great idea.
Yeah,
Milady. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm dude. It's okay.
No, I was talking to Lenico.
Right.
I made
you assumed
an assumption, and that was unfortunate.
Yep.
We should probably wrap things up.
Yeah.
Because I got to go and test out this live
now
stream.
You gotta go.
Right now.
You gotta go do that, and send me that information, and I definitely will be up to watch that tomorrow with these guys here. So, because again, no life. So.
Yeah. So again, we still haven't figured out what are the rights here. If you're rebroadcasting my live stream on YouTube, does that get you in trouble? If you show up in the live stream, does that break?
I think I can actually, if you're live streaming, we can watch your live stream on YouTube, because I can watch NASA, for instance, on YouTube, right?
Right.
So
but you can't be in it at the same time. what if you joined us, is what I'm saying. What if you crossed over for one brief moment into YouTube land and joined us for the live stream and provided some fun commentary?
Right. That's what I got to ask. I can actually probably email my account manager.
I'm saying, like, maybe don't start up a Twitch thing and just join us over on YouTube.
Man, believe these guys?
No, well, it's possible. I'm just spitballing here.
Just spitballing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, then you meet Corey and David.
Right.
And I think Paul's going to probably show up and others, so it should be fun.
Maybe we could do both.
I don't want you to get on Twitch's bad side.
No. I mean, like, do both. Like, I come over, say hi, and then leave and come to my Twitch stream.
Got it. Yeah. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't know what you should do.
I don't either. I have no idea.
The invitation is open for you to come and hang out with us while we do this live stream. We've got 5 hours. We're gonna go crazy.
Yes, it's gonna be great.
Look at the moon. It's like a little more dark now. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Corey is definitely going to be cracking out the beers. For him, it's perfectly legit because it's going to be 10 o'clock at night when he starts. For us,
it's going to be a little bit awkward.
Morning beer.
Yeah, it's going to, it's a lunar eclipse. Yeah. Special event. Well, thank you so much. And guys, there's the guest command. Everybody. We will see you soon.
We'll see you either tomorrow or next week.
Yep. All right. Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.